Yeah, they approached me about a year ago and asked me if I'd be interested in doing a program called American Hot Rod, where we actually have these deadlines to build these hot rods and projects. So didn't know it was going to be as much work as it is, but it's well worth it, and our business is growing from it, and it's great. It's a great deal.
When Boyd Coddington died, one of the most famous hot rod shops in America fell silent. Not long after, the doors closed for good. But when the garage was finally opened and its contents examined, what remained told a far more complicated story than the television legend fans remembered. Hidden among unfinished projects, abandoned equipment, and the remnants of a once thriving empire were clues to what had really happened in the final chapter of Boyd's career. So what was left behind, and why has that story rarely been told? Let's take a closer look inside Boyd Coddington's shop. The truth that was uncovered. After the tragic death of Boyd Coddington, his wife Jo stepped up and tried to keep the business alive. She had been part of the operation for years, running the collectible store and managing corporate builds. But keeping Boyd's shop going without Boyd was like trying to run Disneyland without Walt Disney. On June 20th, 2008, less than 4 months after his death, Boyd Coddington Hot Rods officially closed its doors. And that is when things got wild. The inside of the La Habra shop was a disaster that the TV network deliberately kept off the air. Half-built cars just sat on lifts, even though customers already paid for them completely. These expensive hot rods were totally abandoned in the middle of the garage, surrounded by piles of pricey custom parts and tools from 30 years of building. A lot of these projects were just collecting dust long before Boyd ever checked into the hospital. Everything stopped because the business ran out of money and the schedule was a total mess, but the camera crew just pretended none of it was happening. The cars were only a fraction of the problem. The garage was packed with piles of custom wheels, prototype designs that never actually got built, and manufacturing molds for parts that only Boyd's shop knew how to create. Several customers who handed over massive cash deposits for dream builds were left completely empty-handed. No car and no refund. A few of those clients had been waiting for years just to get their vehicles. However, not every customer got their car back. And not every story had a happy ending. The kid from Idaho. Before Boyd Coddington became a household name on reality television, he was just a car-obsessed kid growing up in Rupert, Idaho, flipping through every hot rod magazine he could get his hands on. At 13 years old, Boyd did something that sounds like a scene from a movie. He traded his prized shotgun for a beat-up 1931 Chevrolet truck. Most kids that age are thinking about school dances. Boyd was thinking about chrome. That trade was the first deal he ever made in the car world, and it set the tone for everything that came after. Boyd went to a machinist trade school, finished a 3-year apprenticeship, and made a massive move in 1968. He packed his bags and went straight to Southern California. He did not go there to become an actor or to hang out at the beach. He went there to build hot rods. But basic dreams do not pay the bills. So Boyd took a night job as a machinist and repairman at Disneyland. During the day, he built custom cars in his garage. At night, he worked to keep the amusement park running. Boyd later said that working at Disneyland taught him about the relentless pursuit of perfection, and he carried that standard into every single car he ever touched. By 1977, Boyd saved up enough cash to open his own shop, Hot Rods by Boyd, in Stanton, California. The first big break happened when a customer named Vern Luce funded a major project. Boyd took a 1933 Ford Coupe and did something completely new. He threw away the door handles, the hinges, and every single extra piece of metal, letting the clean lines of the car do all the talking. He called the process of getting rid of the bumps. It turns out, that revolutionary design genius is a lot easier to achieve when someone else writes the checks. Stripping parts off a car and calling it a brand new philosophy is a great way to make a fortune on a rich guy's dime. The car world called it a total revolution. That 1933 coupe won a massive award at the 1981 Oakland Roadster Show, and suddenly Boyd Coddington was no longer just a random mechanic with a garage. He became the guy rewriting the entire playbook on what a hot rod was supposed to look like. However, creating the most stunning cars in America wasn't enough for Boyd Coddington, and the business he started next would earn him fame, money, and enemies that no shiny car parts could shield him from. The empire that created Jesse James. People completely forget the actual reality about Boyd Coddington. Long before Chip Foose got his own television show, and way before Jesse James started building motorcycles and dating movie stars, both of those guys were just regular employees working inside Boyd's garage. Boyd did not just assemble custom vehicles. He built entire careers. Larry Erickson, the guy who eventually became the chief designer for the Ford Mustang, and the Thunderbird, got his big start under Boyd's roof. The sheer number of people who walked into that shop as nobodies and came out the other side as absolute legends is completely wild. By 1988, Boyd turned his obsession with solid aluminum into a real company. He and his friend Lil John Butera figured out they could machine basically any part out of a solid block of metal. Butera did not care about making money off the idea, but Boyd saw a massive payday. He started Boyd Wheels and began producing custom wheels that hot rod builders everywhere went completely crazy for. Some of those wheels sold for $2,000 a piece, an amount of money that was completely insane at the time. The wheel business exploded. Boyd took the company public in an IPO. For a moment, the kid from Idaho was running a publicly traded custom wheel empire out of Southern California. It was the American dream on 22-inch rims. Then came Cadzilla. In 1989, ZZ Top singer Billy Gibbons brought a 1948 Cadillac into Boyd's shop with a wild idea. The initial drawings were sketched on a bar napkin near the Mexican border. What started as a basic custom job quickly turned into a massive project. Boyd's crew chopped the roof down, welded the hood and fenders into one giant tilting front end, sank the headlights into the body, and shoved a massive Cadillac engine inside. The entire project cost Gibbons roughly $900,000. Car magazines lost their minds, calling it the most incredible transformation anyone had ever seen. The car starred in ZZ Top music videos, went on tour across the country, and became a massive icon. It even had a license plate that read I-8-TOKYO as a joke about Godzilla, because the car was an absolute monster. Boyd's shop was pumping out award-winning custom cars at a ridiculous pace. The shop managed to win the America's Most Beautiful Roadster Award 7 different times. Boyd got inducted into 5 separate halls of fame, and Hot Rod magazine named him Man of the Year. The custom cars ended up sitting in museum exhibits and even made it onto the cover of Smithsonian magazine. Getting into 5 separate halls of fame is a great way to ensure an ego grows to a completely unmanageable size. It is pretty impressive that a guy who built cars for a living managed to trick a museum into thinking a hot rod belongs next to ancient artifacts. However, even the strongest kingdoms can fall apart from within. And what was going on behind the shiny doors of Boyd's shop would have surprised anyone who believed this empire was unbreakable. The cracks nobody saw. Despite all the fancy awards and shiny magazine covers, Boyd Coddington's business was built on a foundation of sand. In 1998, reality hit hard. A major customer went completely broke and left Boyd with a massive $465,000 debt. That kind of financial nightmare can destroy a business overnight, and this one almost did. To stop the ship from sinking completely, Boyd had to restructure his wheel company and drag his oldest son, Boyd Jr., into the mess as a partner. But the financial problems were only part of the story. In his later years, Boyd had started doing something that would land him in serious legal trouble. He was registering cars that were essentially ground-up custom fabrications as antique automobiles. What that simply meant was that he was avoiding emissions restrictions and tax liabilities by claiming these were restored originals rather than entirely new builds. California officials called it a ship of Theseus fraud. The argument was simple. When so many central parts of a car have been replaced, at what point does it stop being the original vehicle? Boyd was charged with a misdemeanor and pleaded guilty on April 7, 2005. The financial strain was even worse than what the public knew. Former employees and industry insiders reportedly gossiped about unpaid debts to small mom-and-pop hot rod shops totaling millions of dollars. Some of those shop owners allegedly never recovered what they were owed. When Boyd restructured, he reportedly put the new company in his son's name to distance it from the old debts. The small vendors who had trusted the king of hot rods with their livelihoods were left empty-handed. And then came the television cameras, and with them, a level of drama that would tear the shop apart from the inside out. The feud that shocked the world. In 2004, TLC launched a reality show about a custom car shop in La Habra. It was marketed as a behind-the-scenes look at building hot rods. It turned out to be a weekly broadcast of a total workplace meltdown. Every episode was packed with screaming matches, sudden firings, and people quitting in a rage. It was pure psychological warfare, and people could not stop watching. The boss ran the place like a ruthless dictator, firing staff on camera without a single shred of hesitation. The employee turnover rate was a total joke. People were hired and discarded so quickly that the shop might as well have had a revolving door installed. The biggest mess of all was the massive feud with Chip Foose. Chip started working for Boyd right after finishing design school in 1990. Boyd actually convinced Chip to reject a major job offer from Ford, just to come work at his garage instead. For years, Chip was the guy designing Boyd's most famous custom cars. Eventually, Chip Foose walked out to launch his own shop in Huntington Beach, called Feuds Design. Boyd took the departure completely personally, and he never really got over it. In a 2006 interview, Foose stated that Boyd had chosen to cut off all relations with him since he stopped working at the shop. The situation got even worse because a lot of Boyd's top employees packed up and followed Foose. Charlie Hutton, who spent years working as Boyd's main painter and fabricator, quit to help Chip build a car for a massive industry award. The television show caught the exact moment it happened, and the footage was incredibly awkward. Boyd literally refused to shake Charlie's hand while the cameras recorded every single second. Shortly after that, another key employee named Mike Curtis got fired right on camera. The excuse was that he was doing extra work for Chip Foose by designing motorcycle wheels on the side. Fans of the show were split into two camps. One side thought Boyd was just a tough boss in a brutal industry. The other side saw a guy who actively set fire to every single relationship he ever had. The reality was pretty embarrassing. Boyd spent decades training the most talented builders on the planet, and those exact people were now using their skills to make his rival rich. To make things worse, Foose launched his own show called Overhaulin' on the same network. He instantly became one of the most loved figures in the car community. The student completely blew past the teacher, and absolutely everyone in the industry knew it. There is nothing quite like watching a master craftsman spend years training his own replacement, only to get completely outclassed on his own television network. But the feuds and the firings were about to become the least of Boyd Coddington's problems, because what happened on New Year's Eve 2007 would change everything forever. The death that nobody saw coming. On December 31st, 2007, Boyd Coddington ended up in the hospital. He got discharged right after New Year's, but his health collapsed fast. He went right back into the hospital in Whittier, California, where doctors performed surgery. The medical staff expected a total recovery, and absolutely nobody was worried. Boyd was incredibly tough. The man survived endless lawsuits and a reality television show that broadcast his worst behavior to millions of viewers. A minor surgery seemed like absolutely nothing. Then, on February 27, 2008, at 6:20 in the morning, Boyd Coddington passed away. He was 63 years old. His publicist later revealed that Boyd had been a long-time diabetic and had died from complications brought on by a recent surgery for a perforated colon, along with sepsis and kidney complications. The news hit the automotive community like a freight train. Harry Hibbler, former publisher of Hot Rod magazine, called it a major loss for automotive enthusiasts and hot rod fans around the world. The memorial website at boydcoddington.com got flooded with so many messages from fans that the entire server crashed. The funeral service took place on March 5th at Our Lady of Guadalupe Catholic Church in La Habra, and everyone headed back to the garage afterward for the reception. The man who spent his life building custom rides for rock stars, taking home every massive trophy in the business, and getting into 5 separate halls of fame was completely gone. And the entire automotive empire he left behind was sitting right on the edge of a total collapse. What happened next inside that famous shop would reveal just how fragile the Boyd Coddington empire really was. And what was left behind told a story that fans never expected. The fortune that built itself and burned itself down. Boyd Coddington made a massive amount of money for a guy who literally traded a shotgun for a broken-down truck when he was 13 years old. At the absolute peak of his career, his net worth reportedly hit around $20 million. The money came from everywhere. He had custom car builds, massive sales from billet wheels, television money from American Hot Rod, big licensing deals, and famous clients like Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top and Michael Anthony from Van Halen. Boyd was not just building cars anymore, he turned himself into a massive corporate brand. His custom wheels sold for $2,000 a piece, back when that kind of price tag was completely unheard of in the hot rod world. When Boyd died in February 2008, he was worth about $12.5 million. While this is still a lot of money, it was much less than he had at his peak. When his shop closed 4 months later, it became clear how bad things really were. Reports showed that the shop was left with about 10 unfinished cars, dozens of unused designs, and a massive amount of tools and parts. Some customers had already paid for these unfinished cars, and many reportedly never got their money back. In the end, the fortune Boyd spent 30 years building did not last after his death. The shop closed. The employees scattered. The wheel division went to his son, Christopher. And the empire that once seemed untouchable was gone in less than half a year. The legacy that refuses to die. Here is what makes Boyd Coddington's story so wild. The man had every flaw in the book. He burned bridges with his best employees. He racked up debts that reportedly devastated small businesses. He pleaded guilty to a fraud charge. His own reality show made him look like one of the most difficult people on the planet to work for. And yet, When people talk about the history of hot rods, Boyd Coddington's name is right at the top, because the work was that good. Chip Foose went on to become one of the most famous car designers alive. Jesse James built a motorcycle empire. Larry Erickson designed Fords that millions of people drive every day. Charlie Hutton won the Riddler Award he always dreamed of. All of them got their start in Boyd's shop. Boyd did not just build cars, he built an entire generation of the automotive industry's biggest names. Love him or hate him, the fingerprints of Boyd Coddington are all over the modern custom car world. Cadzilla still tours the country with Billy Gibbons today. Boyd's 7 AMBR trophies remain one of the most dominant records in hot rod history. His billet aluminum wheels changed the entire industry so completely that builders use them now without even knowing who actually invented the concept. The Boyd look, that clean, smooth style a kid from Idaho dreamed up in his garage, is still the gold standard for high-end hot rod design. It turns out a person can alienate an entire staff, ruin a family, and run a business straight into the ground, but a nice set of shiny wheels makes the industry forget everything else. Elite craftsmanship apparently buys a lifetime pass for terrible behavior. Do you see Boyd Coddington as a misunderstood genius, or as someone whose ego ruined his success? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.